Welcome back, everybody, to another pocket episode of Epic Pugscast. While we determine
Epic Game Tyrants,
the future,
Pugs,
the future of this expanded universe, we're
Tyrant Cast.
diversifying. We're figuring it out. I am your co-host Laserdisc.
I am your host Twitch, and this is currentently.
We're not out of the ghetto yet.
I mean, we're pretty out of the ghetto. Like, from what you guys can see, I'd just be careful with them. They are part of FantasyCon prop that the owner used for FantasyCon when he put all that together. But I mean, like, from camera angle, everything looks good though.
It's like a Skype call that's all like been procured. It looks like you're in a nice, clean apartment, but you're actually in a dingy back alley somewhere.
Oh, dude, there's chaos everywhere. It is insane. Ooh, I need to grab my Switch, though. I forgot to pick this up.
Please stand by. Twitch needs to get his Switch.
Well, I'm talking about it.
The Twitch Switch. I came prepared. I have now played an Nintendo Switch game.
Yeah, what'd you play?
I played Snipper Clippers.
I'm sorry. That sounds terrible.
It's really fun, and it's a thing that really does well at showing off one of the main things that the Switch is very good at,
which is being the Switch.
Multiplayer anywhere.
Oh.
So I played Snipper Clippers in a yurt up in the Uintas, like snow, so much snow that like you couldn't even see the bottom step of the staircase up to the yurt on a snowmobiling trip. And one of the people there had a Switch, pulled it out, put out the kickstand, took the Joy-Cons off.
Just like this.
Said, somebody want to play a Switch with me?
Let's snipper clipper it. Let's clip it with snippers.
So it's like...
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. And that's nice. I'm really liking it. So everybody knows I had zero intention of ever having anything Nintendo ever again.
Our longtime viewers will will know how Twitch feels about Nintendo.
All of you newbies, though, you'll have no idea. But for those of you that have been watching for the past year, you'll know my disdain for Nintendo and my zero desire to have any part of it in my life.
And
here I am.
Tell us about it.
I love it. Like, absolutely love it.
And that's why Nintendo can be apathetic.
So, I'm under the impression that Nintendo saw the Wii and the Wii U and were like, oh, crap, we need to step up our game. We can't do that ever again. Because it was clearly...
We dropped the ball.
Yeah, they're just terrible. Because everything about this little handheld has been fantastic. Like, listen to this. Listen, I don't know if you guys can hear this, but that's such a satisfying click. And when it's on, it makes a different sound, too. Let's see if it'll do it. Oh, it didn't do it. It usually does like an echo. Like a tink. Let's see if I can... Oh, it's not doing it. I don't know why, but it's I love it.
It's good. It's a really neat piece of kit.
Yeah, it's a really nice handheld. I don't know. I bought it for myself for Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Twitch.
Exactly. Absolutely. I went and bought it after work. I was like, I'm getting it. I'm just getting it. And I played it like all through Christmas and Christmas Eve. And didn't spend any time with my family. But Xenoblade has been fantastic.
That's the one where it's like you and your anime waifu who also is a sword, right?
Well, she's called a blade, but she's not a sword.
It's just a blade.
It's called a blade. I don't know why it's called a blade, other than to keep with the name Xenoblade. Because calling them a blade really doesn't make a lot of sense. Because they're not blades. They don't actually do any fighting. They just kind of...
stand around and look pretty?
Well, they give you power. And not all blades look like her. She is one of the few blades that actually looks like that at all.
Convenient.
Yeah, well, right. She's what's called the
waifu blade.
What is she called? Like, she's a special blade for whatever reason. For game's sake.
Yes.
But it's super cool game. Like, it's been so freaking fun. I just want to keep playing it. But I left my Switch home for like the last 2 days when I was at my other job. And I was sad because I couldn't do anything.
Couldn't keep playing your JRPG?
Mm-hmm.
How does it stack up in your list of JRPGs?
Xenoblade Chronicles?
Yeah.
I haven't played like a ton other than Final Fantasy. But
how does it compare to Final Fantasy?
I feel like it has an unfair advantage because
it's 35 years newer.
Well, no, because it's on a handheld and I love handhelds.
Ah.
And so, but I won't lie, the most fun I've had playing Xenoblade Chronicles is when I've plugged it into my TV and actually done something.
How is the couch-based experience on the Switch?
It still looks good. I mean, it's definitely still not an Xbox One or a PS4 or anything like that, but it doesn't look bad.
Yeah.
It's still really clean.
Ultimately, as always with Nintendo, the gameplay will entertain you so much that you won't really be bothered about how good it looks.
Yeah. And
that's always been their gamble.
Yeah, that's their dice roll, just, can we do it? Yeah. No, it's been, I would say it's definitely up there. It might currently be one of my favorite ones I've played as far as a JRPG goes. I can't really think of a lot of others off the top of my head though right now. So
no Chrono Trigger.
I never played that.
What about Metrosexual Boy Band Simulator?
Never even heard of that.
4 guys in a car.
Oh, Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
See, have you played that though? You can't insult it because it's amazing.
It's not insulting. It's just kind of like, it's kind of what it is. Like,
I mean, let's be honest though. Every Final Fantasy game is pretty much the tip of the iceberg cliche. Like, it is the cliche of whatever it's trying to do. Like, I don't know if you ever played, was it 13 with Snow? All of his lines are so obnoxious to... I'm the hero. I'm going to save every... I'm not kidding you. He says I'm the hero like every 15 minutes. It's like, dude, shut up. We get it. Shut up.
It's Final Fantasy X that has that guy with the horrible laugh, right? There's like an infamous cutscene.
I don't remember.
Where like a dude and a chick start laughing and he's like, ah ha ha ha.
Isn't that Sora?
And
that's Sora.
That is not.
That's Sora and Kairi.
Sora, like
from Kingdom Hearts.
I'm pretty sure it's not.
Oh, I can see Sora and Kairi laughing. Right. There might be a scene in Final Fantasy X.
Do the thing that you always do.
Well, no, I can see. There might be a scene like that in Final Fantasy X, but I know for a fact that Sora and Kairi have a very awkward laughing scene. And it's so weird because he like laughs at the ocean, I believe, if I remember correctly. He's like, ha 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 ha, and it's like, what are you doing? Calm down. It's super weird. But there very might well be a 1 in 10. I don't know. I've only played up to Blitzball in 10, so I couldn't give you a specific.
Titus and Yuna.
There's clearly some more. Yeah, that's fine. There could easily be more, but I know that Sora and Kairi do it as well. Like, oh yeah, no, I know the scene you're talking about. Titus is just obnoxious all the time. Like, he's the worst. And I don't know why she has him laugh, because it's so awkward. He's like, ah! Oh, man, I know that scene. It's rough to watch. just playing it for the microphone is hopefully picking stuff up. But no, I recommend the Switch. I think it's fantastic. I've been absolutely in love with it. Like, I've barely gone anywhere without having it with me. Like, before you came, I was playing Rocket League. and watching Toradora. And it got kind of weird, but I think it's still good. I don't know. It got kind of weird.
Can you explain something for me? I've always wondered, because I've only seen like an AMV made out of that show. Who's the blonde chick that lives with him?
That's his mom.
Okay, I figured it was like his weirdly doesn't look at all like an adult mom.
Well, it's because she's like a young mom, essentially.
Is she a stepmom?
No, she's just a single young mom, like had a kid at 15 mom.
Ah.
Yeah. Had a youngster when she was still a youngster kind of deal, I believe. She's obnoxious though. But it's very good because it drives the arc of the character a little well. Also awkward in some senses, but it's pretty good. But I love the Switch.
What's what games have you played? Do you have for it so far?
I got Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Rocket League, and what's the other one called? It's called like Guts, Gore, and Cannoli or something like that. Guns, Gore, and Cannoli, yeah. It's just a weird side-scroll zombie shooter game. It's super goofy, but it's fun. And I love it.
Does it have Italian pastries in it?
I haven't been paying attention because I haven't been playing that much. I only bought it so I had a 2-player game on there. Like that's the only reason I bought it.
So that leads into snipper clippers.
Okay.
So you are these two like little. You're basically like these really cutesy like smiley faces. Slapped.
Oh no, I know what snipper clippers is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You gotta like make the shapes.
It's actually really fun.
Yeah, I watched the Game Grumps play it.
Yeah.
It looks super funny, actually. I should probably get that. That'd be a fun one. I don't know. What do you have for us, though? We've got an hour.
Less than an hour now.
Hey, we talked about the Switch, though.
Let's see
We also
here.
spent 40 minutes figuring out the wiring.
I can talk about Tron Legacy, or I
Haven't
can
you
talk
already?
about Star Wars, or I could talk about stuff like Tron Legacy and Star Wars, and the idea of comparing something from 30 plus years ago to something that came out recently,
Like with the
like with Star
Wars
Wars
and Tron.
Yeah.
I kind of hate when people complain about stuff like that. Like,
So I recently, in the last couple of weeks, like from Christmas around to now, the week before Christmas now, I watched episode 8, and I watched episode 5, and I watched episode 7, and I watched episode 4.
you didn't watch episode 6.
Not yet, but
Oh, this is a weird pattern.
well, I watched episode 8, right? And after episode 7 came out, the only thing anyone ever wanted to say was, "Oh, it's just like A New Hope."
Oh, yeah.
So I went home and I stuck in Empire Strikes Back to see if there was any validity to that. And kind of really isn't.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Well, no, and it's like I said, I feel like at this point people are just saying it because they've heard everybody else say it, and they don't want to be left in the, knowledge dust. And so they just say it so that way they can sound like they know anything.
Emperor's New Clothing.
Exactly. But in reality, there's just a bunch of idiots that are just like repeating whatever they saw on Facebook. It's like, I know you're not that big of a Star Wars fan. I know you as a person. Last time you watched anything nerdy was, well, when the last Star Wars came out. So,
Star Wars Episode 7. Let's first start talking about that just to get the ball rolling. So, you can see where the argument comes from.
Oh, yeah.
With that, because it's like, nobody on a desert planet gets caught up into a crazy adventure, goes flying away on the Millennium Falcon,
and the Death Star.
meets up with the Resistance, and all of a sudden is blowing up the Death Star.
Yeah.
That's kind of like where it ends, because it has a lot of similar imagery, which I still maintain was the smartest thing they ever could have done.
Well, I mean, and it makes sense. Like, if you look at airplanes from 100 years ago, I don't know when airplanes were first invented. if you look at the first airplane and look at airplanes now, they're still the basic exact same thing. They got wings, they got a body, they got a rudder, and they got something to propel them. Why wouldn't a planet destroyer look similar to one they just made 20 years ago?
So it's like,
I mean, that's just a thing like that would do. Like, you're not gonna change how cars look in the next 20 years. Why would you make a completely different thing that does the exact same thing but have it look brand freaking new? That's just and
it's like, you
waste.
know, what else are they going to do? Like, they're the First Order. They're basically the Empire.
Yeah.
The reason the Empire had the Death Star in the first place, the reason they made it was control. Like, that, they make a big point of that in Star Wars Episode 4, where they're saying this weapon will allow us to control the galaxy, and then we can bring order to the galaxy. Now, whether or not you agree with what they do as the ruling entity of the galaxy, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But, like, they had a goal. They weren't just this wasn't just like hey, let's see if we could make a thing that will blow up a planet.
Let's see if we can do these things.
Right? In the First Order, you know, they're like, I don't really know too much of the details, but there's evidence that they have control of some of the galaxy, but not a lot of it.
Yeah.
And what's a way with that they can really get that quick? Oh, what if we make a thing that will blow up like 6 planets at once?
Yeah.
Who's going to stop us then? I mean, obviously our plucky resistance heroes, just like has always been the case in Star Wars, right? But the movie gave us familiar imagery, which was, I think, important, because if it didn't hug us and give us that warm feeling that we all wanted, loads of people would have not even given it the time of day. Because,
oh, yeah.
You know, everybody hated the prequels, so it would be like, oh, this is another prequel.
Everybody has to cry about everything. I've realized they just want to whine. And like I was saying, I hate it when people compare. First of all, I hate it when they compare new movies to old movies. Like with It. I haven't seen it yet, but shut up. Holy crap. Everybody's whining like, oh, it wasn't as scary as the original. I was like, you weren't 12 when you watched this one. First of all. Second of all, those movies were never meant to be scary. They were thrillers. That's what Stephen King is a thriller writer. He's not a horror writer. He's a thriller writer.
People don't know what thrillers are.
They don't.
Like, can you think of, other than like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, can you think of a thriller
Disturbia
that has come out in the years between now and Disturbia?
I'd have to think, honestly, because I don't like anything that scares me.
I don't really either.
I'm not a huge fan of being frightened. I could say that up to a point, the Strangers was a thriller.
Okay, yeah. You've
Up
talked
to
about that a few times.
yeah, up to a point that would have been a thriller until the blatant murder at the end.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a true story, so like, just go read a paper.
It's called the newspaper.
Find out what happened to these two people.
Filled with spoilers.
Stay tuned. Screw that. I'm just gonna look. Oh, they die. Okay. I can't. I mean, no one really makes them.
Yeah.
You could probably argue that some of the Insidious movies are thrillers because they're not gory movies.
Mm-hmm.
There's not violence. I would say at least Insidious 1 and 2 are thrillers.
You know, to an extent, I know you don't like it because you hate the character, but Captain America, the Winter Soldier, that movie was at least a political thriller.
Yeah.
Because it's like crap goes down, and you're sitting wondering who you can trust.
Yeah, what's going to happen kind of deal. You know, what venues are there to trust and stuff like that. No, it makes sense. But no, like I was saying with it, it's like everybody was like complaining. It's not like the old one. It's like, well, thank goodness,
it
you know?
shouldn't be like that's the thing that gets me with Star Wars. Like, it can't win if it's different, and it can't win if it's the same.
Yeah, it's like that's not a remake, that's a remaster. You know?
Like,
they tried that and everybody hated those too.
George Lucas Special Edition.
Like,
coming soon.
You can't please Star Wars fans. There's just no doing it.
Because it's like, I sat down, like, opening week of Episode 7 in a theater, and I watched it, and I was like, this is a really good movie. I really like this movie, and it's my favorite Star Wars movie, right?
He's talking about The Phantom Menace.
Episode 7, Episode 1. I actually didn't see any of the prequels until they were all out on DVD.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw The Phantom Menace in theaters, and I think I loved every second of it. I mean, I get that Jar Jar Binks is absolute cancer. Like, he's just terrible. But I loved The Phantom Menace. I loved the pod racing.
It's been so long since I've seen The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
I remember really liking the battle droids because I've always, like, robots have always been my kryptonite.
That'll lead into the next topic then.
Maybe you've Are we gonna freaking talk about Sophie the robot again?
I mean, we can touch on her because I had a nice conversation with somebody the other night about her. But actual robots. Hitachi has a commercial on YouTube about actual robots. I am not kidding you.
What do you mean actual robots?
Robots, like legit helper robots.
Oh yeah, no, they've had crap like that in Japan for a long time.
Not here on YouTube in America. I'm on YouTube like every day. This is the first one I've ever seen. All I could think of was like the iRobot movies where you see the commercials for robots and like, let them help you carry your groceries and stuff like that. Because at first when I'm watching this commercial, I was like, this is a joke. This is gonna be like
this
for a
can't
movie,
be real.
a comedy or something like that. And then it was just like Hitachi and stuff like that. And I was like, what just happened? Like, are we really having commercials for robots? This is the greatest day of my life. Like, I am so happy right now because robots are cool. I love robots so very much. I love Sophia Robot so very much.
I don't like her at all.
Why?
I don't like her face. I don't like her citizenship status.
Really? Why not?
I don't know how we're supposed to be handling the idea of artificial intelligence when it actually happens.
Yeah. So
I don't think just like granting it citizenship and saying it is the same as a human being is the way forwards.
It might not be, but I have a quick question for you. Define sentience. Can you define sentience?
I believe that you can. I do not have the words or the
articulation.
The articulation to tell you how, but I'm pretty sure you can.
Oh, I know you can define it, but I want can you explain it to me? And if not, then why is it so hard for everybody to think that we can't give something sentience?
So
like think about this. We're talking, right?
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever had this thought. I've had this thought a lot. Like, maybe I'm the only one that knows I can think and everybody else just responds appropriately. Have you ever had those thoughts?
I've heard people talking about those sorts of thought experiments, but I've never lent them much credit.
When I was much younger, we're talking like 8, 9, 10. Those were the thoughts that inhabited my mind all the time. With that being said, because, I mean, and we can prove that your brain's doing stuff and that it's thinking, but that essentially is sentience. We can prove that Sophia's whatever robotic brain is doing stuff and it's solving things, which by definition would be thinking. How do we not know that's not sentience? Are we allowed to say what is and what isn't sentience? I mean, we continually say what animals have technical sentience or metacognition, if I may.
So, I would say that we are allowed to. I think that someone who is a doctor is allowed to say who is or is not a doctor, right?
Yes.
So I would think that as sentient creatures, like, there's always that funny little like thought of, oh, what if like dogs are hyper intelligent or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? But we're the ones that wear
babies
clothes.
are actually the smartest people on earth.
But
shut up, Jaden Smith.
Now. Don't punch down, remember.
Sorry.
But
Shut up, Jaden.
there you go. But we're the ones that made light bulbs. We're the ones that have like doors and buildings.
True.
So,
I
think we can pretty well say that we are sentient. We do have some level of thought above other creatures. We have science.
well, if we've given a robot, I'm not gonna use her specifically, but any like AI, the ability to think per se, and it creates something, isn't that sentience then? If they're creating it, wouldn't that make Facebook sentient? Because it essentially created its own language that only it could understand. We've created technology that only we can understand. I mean, you can't explain a light bulb to a cat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
But that's like a more of a raw horsepower thing, right? You can't explain a light bulb to a cat because it can't perceive concepts that abstract.
but so maybe we can't perceive concepts as abstract as something that maybe artificial intelligence could.
See, but you're just feeding into why I say I don't think just like saying that it can have citizenship immediately, like we always like see movies like, I don't know, like Independence Day, right? Aliens show
Yeah.
up and there's always that dude that's like an old man in a military uniform covered in medals that's like, we can't trust them,
Yeah.
right?
Or for whatever reason.
And they're always painted as the guy who's obviously too stuck in their ways and right, not accepting enough. But I kind of think that that's an attitude that isn't amiss when we're talking about the idea of artificial intelligence, because
I mean, we definitely can't fully trust it.
like,
But I mean, to a degree, we also can't fully trust each other. You know,
see,
it's
but
easier for us to trust each other because we look the same.
yeah, I know.
And
But
yeah, so I mean, but even then, like,
the reason we can't, like, you couldn't trust if like a bunch of some alien species showed up in flying saucers, right? You can't trust them because you don't know, like, what if they're here for a new planet and
Yeah.
they're not willing to share? Well, okay, so what if we make artificial intelligence, and what if we just have it start out as some sort of learning program that's looking for a way to reduce carbon footprints? How do we know it won't then
keep
going
reverse engineering that till it's
and-
get
until it
rid
says,
of people kind of deal.
until it says, well, the most efficient way would be to get rid of people because, the way they live, even like the most first world kind of human beings have a objectively negative impact on where they live.
Yeah.
So, and this is all very like, oh no, Skynet, right?
Yeah,
But-
yeah, obviously.
But like, I don't believe that we'll just suddenly unleash a genie out of a bottle.
Oh, I don't think so either.
But I think that it could be dangerous to, like, I feel like artificial intelligence research is a kid with a gun. I think we're just a kid with a gun.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's loaded. We don't know if the safety's on.
But also think about it this way. Are you thinking about things to come as your parents have thought about things that came for you kind of deal? Let me rephrase that. When video games were really first being introduced, people in that generation were thinking and saying the exact similar things.
Oh, I
as to what-
fully accept that I am that
Oh,
kind of a...
No, I'm just asking, like, do you think that with that kind of, we're going to say super meta, because that's a very meta thing to think about, would that potentially sway the way you think at all? Like, knowing stuff like this has happened in the past, it could potentially be bad for a few people, but in the long run, it's probably going to be not a bad
if
thing.
I'm alive to see the results, and it really does look like I was incorrect in my assumption that this is a dangerous thing that we should be really, really careful with,
Yeah.
then I will change my mind. Like, there's a line in Blade Runner that I think is pretty much sums up my opinion of the subject, which is machines are either a benefit or a hazard. If they're a benefit, then it's not my problem.
Yeah. I mean, and that's true in any sense. Like, a cell phone's either a benefit or if I throw it at you, a hazard. No, I'm just kidding. It can either be positive or negative regardless.
Yeah, like, I use a cell phone every day, but there's obviously loads of...
But I'm not addicted to staring at my cell phone and ignoring society.
Negative impacts can obviously happen from that. Like, negative impacts can happen from video games.
Yeah.
And obviously, here we are talking... like,
I don't know. I'm excited about the prospects.
Like, I'm excited about the idea of robots.
Yeah.
But the idea of incorporeal, shapeless, formless, artificial intelligence that could do that stuff that you see it do in the movies all the time.
Well, do you think that they would be like a Unimind?
I mean, that's the thing. Like,
I mean, with the internet, it's really hard to say they couldn't be. As
a writer, I always, like, if I'm going to be writing about robots, I don't gravitate towards the Unimind idea. Like, I like to imagine robots as having separate, like, ideals of individuality. But if they link up to the internet, that's very human centric.
Yeah,
right? That's obviously like applying human logic to a machine, which
can't I mean, it's not. That's not how it works.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know. It's interesting because,
like, there's a chance that individual artificial intelligences could gravitate into a Unimind. They might be absorbed by whichever one is smartest, which even that is like a thing that makes me feel kind of spooked.
Well, and the thing that, like, blows my mind is there's the possibility and the potential that we have created something that we can't understand. Because, I mean, I'll use a small example. Can you do 98,747,000 whatever times by 17 in your head?
No.
But a computer can.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, like, we have potentially made something that we could never begin to understand. And it could, in essence... And so these things, like, it's cool for me because, like, maybe the robot apocalypse will come, you know?
Like,
it's kind of a cool thought. Like, that would be crazy, right?
Crazy, right? It would
but
be better than zombies.
It's true, you know, because you don't have to shoot your mom or something. But, like, that possibility is there. That potential is there for them to really know everything.
Yeah.
And be almost completely unlimited in what they can know.
I think if software ever approaches that kind of a thing, which I'm not too sure about the details of Sophia the robot, but I do not consider that to be sentience.
Well, I mean, she's not into a situation where, like, that could even... She couldn't learn everything like that. First of all, I don't think she has internet access.
But I think hardware would always be the limiter.
Absolutely.
Because you can say computers can do all that stuff, but, like, you know, how...
20 years ago,
how long is it before even, like, the craziest underground data center cluster is taxed to capacity under a super intelligence that's trying to learn everything?
Yeah. That's an interesting thought too. I never really thought about that. Like, they would be completely limited by essentially a full brick wall. Like, if let's say they had a terabyte hard drive for their brain, I think that hers is like a zettaflop byte or something like that. I think Sophia's is like that.
Yeah.
Because it has to clearly be a ton.
Yeah.
But at a given point, unlike a human brain, it stores everything.
Yeah.
And it can only store to a max. Whereas a human brain will forget things but has no technical limit.
Yeah, and like how, like, even if you said, oh, well, delete things, how does a machine, like a super intelligence trying to learn everything, prioritize that?
Yeah.
I think you would just stare at it and say, well, I'm trying to learn everything.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of, like, it would be a raccoon in a trap.
Yeah, because they have, I mean, there's no, what's it called? What's it called? Like when your heart since that your heart beats by itself and you don't have to think about it. But you know what I'm talking about. The whatever responses or I can't remember. Anyways, they wouldn't have that.
Yeah.
You know, they would have to think that they're thinking kind of deal. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, even for walking, as a task as simple as walking, I mean, maybe it's a small process for I don't know, but that's no longer a thought process. It just happens now. I don't know, man. And so that doesn't take up space in my brain. Whereas for them, that would continually and forever have to take up space.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy, man. I want robots to take over the world. I want one of them to come back in time. And I want him to kill everybody. What? Oh, he's right there. Yeah. Yeah, I want this guy right here, the T100.
T800.
Is it T800?
Yeah.
And he's an AO2. Just kidding. Want him to come to life, and I want him to live and murder everybody. Come with me if you want to live. That's how he sounds.
Yes.
All the time.
All the time.
Every time.
It's how come he's a robot.
Because he wants to live. So I don't know. Got into that conversation with some people last night because they couldn't describe sentience at all. And I was like, well, then how can you say one has or has not it? That's my whole thing. Is like,
I mean, it's like a sense of self. It's the ability to respond, but it's the ability to respond in any number of ways at any number of times.
But at the same sense, people or science has proven that rats and dolphins have a sense of self. They have metacognition. They know that they can think.
Yeah.
On the converse hand of that, they can't respond with like facial expressions or, you know, but we give them sentience. Whereas Sophia, and this is, I mean, I don't know either way. I'm more hopeful than anything. But at the end of the day, I don't care a ton. I think it's super cool, and I want it to happen, but I don't care a ton. But like, if we're doing that, giving that to rats, and Sophia can do so much more, why can't she be considered sentient? It's
I wouldn't consider metacognition to be the exact same as sentience. It's the beginnings of sentience.
Well, I mean, because it's knowing that you think. I feel like that's at a baseline fairly sentient to know that you exist. To at least not just to know that you exist, but to know that you're thinking is. I mean, that's a pretty big step in the gene pool. That goes from, you know, cats and dogs who just kind of aimlessly do stuff to recognizing that you exist and are a thing. I don't know. And I guess for me as a layman, it's hard to look at something that looks like it's thinking and say it's not thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get where you're going from, but I don't know. Artificial intelligence, until we can truly like create something that like a program that can learn and then rewrite itself because it's learned. You know what?
I mean, by definition, it did that thing.
I'm not too sure about that whole story. It seems pretty far-fetched.
I mean, it's definitely far-fetched, but that's the era we live in.
Like,
we have phones that do it. It's called predictive text.
I don't think programming has gotten far enough.
Yeah.
I feel like we've gotten very convincing with Sophie the robot, right? But I'm not convinced that it's thinking. I think it's like a very clever chatbot. It's a very clever search engine.
See, I guess that's where we differ because I've watched multiple interviews with her, read numerous amounts of articles about her, and so I am a little bit more convinced that she's not like her programming is not just having her check creatively, but it's actually searching for like what a correct response would be, um, given the personality. And what's weird, and I've noticed this a little bit because I've been watching her videos for a little while, and you can actually, and the weird thing, I don't know, it's weird, and you might not agree with me, but I feel like I've noticed her personality change. She's gone from kind of being just a baby that can talk to someone with, I don't know, like
So let's
ingenuity.
okay, let's hypothetically say that this is sentience.
Yeah.
To what end? That's
What do you mean?
So, okay, that's the other thing that gets me about artificial intelligence. We have sentience, but we are still heavily mammalian. Purpose from hunter-gatherer times was survive and pass your genes on,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as we, evolved as a society, we gained more and more ways to find purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, purpose for some people is just that, right? I want to raise a family, but other people are like, I want to collect things, or I want to make things, or I want to experience things. And that's all very biological. How does an artificial intelligence find sense of purpose? If it's truly sentient, what does it do? Does it simply exist?
That's a good question.
How do you
it's
give
the Rick and Morty question. It's the butterbot.
Yeah, like
What is my purpose?
You pass the butter.
Oh my god. Yeah, welcome to the club, man.
like so I feel like there's
a line like I
Yeah.
get what you're saying, like you
How-
need
how
to
do you-
have wonder essentially.
how do you give a machine actual curiosity beyond a like giving it the prerogative to learn? How do you give it a reward pathway? How do you
Do you think, and now here's a thought, if you give it the prerogative to learn like you were talking about, you give it, and let's say that's just the program. Let's say it's all 100% a program. If you give it this thing to learn, like this program of learning,
Mhm.
do you think it could develop real curiosity? I mean, because let's think about it this way. Take a Lego,
Yeah.
and you're trying to make a picture of a face out of 5 Legos.
Mhm.
And each Lego is going to, it's going to be knowledge. Like, it's going to represent knowledge. So one piece of
Yeah.
Lego is one knowledge point. I don't know.
Mhm.
And you get like 20 Legos, you can make a face with like rectangle eyes and maybe a mouth or
Mhm.
whatever. But it's pretty bad. But then you broaden it and just say you have 1,000 Legos now. You can get a fairly detailed face, honestly. Let's say you have billions of Legos and you have a huge space in order to make this face. Once far enough away, you could essentially make a face that's completely undiscernible that it's Lego.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, why wouldn't knowledge do the same thing, where it starts super basic and gets more and more and more and more and more involved until it's actually real?
I mean, intelligence I don't think can equate to like what do you mean when you say real? Like what are you
Well,
comparing
it's not.
that
It's
to?
no longer just a program saying like I want to learn. I want to learn because it's learning, and as it's learning, it's growing, and looking and becoming more realistic. It's no longer just a little face with 2 lines and then a bottom line for a mouth. It's now the Mona Lisa of Legos because of how much it's learned. That to me at that point, like if it's all working together,
See, but
I mean that'd be a really good impression of sentience.
you're looking at learning from a biological standpoint, though.
Yeah, but do you not think we could do that with the computer? If we give it the process to just learn, would it not learn that it's learning? At some point, I feel like it would have to. I feel like it would have to learn that it's learning. It may not understand it.
See, but humans, we learn through experience. And like I was saying earlier, how can you translate a biological sense of experience to what is essentially a machine?
Well, and maybe you can't at first. Maybe it has to learn about experiences to begin with and finesse it until in reality it's such a perfect act that there's no differentiation or whatever between this machine's perfect act of experience and remembering and our understanding of remembering. Maybe that's what it comes down to. Maybe it isn't real sentience. Maybe it's just a flawless act.
I mean, I feel like experience is too abstract for at least, I think, our lifetime's worth of technological development. I think experience is too abstract. I mean, you could mimic it, right? But it's like like learning. Like we start learning when we're little kids, and we have experiences like, you learn. Maybe some kids learn earlier about what's dangerous because of their parents or because like they fell down and they scraped their knees, and other kids don't learn until later. But we all learn, don't trip over your own feet
or else you'll be an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Right, but like a machine would be if it were to have like legs that it could trip over. I don't see.
Do you not think it would learn exponentially faster though? Because it's no longer at that point it's working with a limited hardware, but it's working with perfect hardware.
Yeah.
Whereas we're working with unlimited hardware, but ours is very imperfect hardware.
And it changes.
Yes. And so like a machine would have exponential learning.
Okay.
It wouldn't have to experience tripping to know that it shouldn't trip.
Okay, so let me then ask you, what happens when you play Vivaldi for a machine?
I don't know.
What happens when you play Led Zeppelin for a machine?
But here's the other question. There's the adverse question of that. They've had machines that write that kind of music.
Creation is not the same as experience.
But can we really say that creation is not some sort of knowledge? I mean, because things don't just sound good together because they sound good together. When you're putting something together, they sound good together because they make you feel something generally.
Yeah.
And they've got these machines that have created these masterpieces of music. I've actually listened to them, and they're insane.
But is that just learning?
I don't know.
By looking at other stuff.
I don't know. But isn't that what we did? Didn't we just look at like the dots on the paper?
Yeah, but a composer comes to be a composer. They come to know what they want to compose because of preference, which again is a very biological thing. And I don't think you can make a program that can choose its own preference.
Yeah.
For something as abstract as music.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because
it's weird.
Because even animals that aren't sentient like humans are, will respond in different ways to music.
Mm-hmm.
Like birds or cats or dogs will respond in different ways to different songs, depending on different birds or cats or dogs.
I just think of it in the sense it's like our brain is made up of these subatomic to subatomic to subatomic. It's an exponential thing that gets smaller and smaller. And from what I've come to understand, never ends. Will eternally just get smaller. Yeah. The deeper down you go into your molecules and atoms and whatever. And that's what makes us tick.
Yeah.
If we were able to replicate that with pure data, would that not be the exact same thing? Because you learn, we'll use math. You learn 2 plus 2.
Yeah.
Then you learn 2 minus 2. Then you learn 2 times 2. And then 2 divided by 2. And these are all getting bigger, and the other ones are getting smaller. and it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows, and it's exponential. And we're talking like straight data. We're talking ones and zeros. If it keeps growing, who's to say that we're not the exact same thing? We're just organic. To me, that's where it gets me. It's like data has infinitely less bonds than we do. Because it can, until it can't grow anymore because we put a stop to it saying this is 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
it can forever get smaller and smaller, have more and more ones and zeros, and the more and more ones and zeros, the more advanced it becomes, and the more advanced it becomes, the more, I don't know, alive maybe it becomes, and maybe because it can grow exponential, it's evolution. And let's hypothesize or whatever, let's fantasize.
Dude, I don't have a watch.
For a second, we're about an hour. Let's just fantasize for a second that evolution is 100% true. And
for the sake of discussion,
it's 100% true. For the sake of discussion. Yeah, you guys calm down. For the sake of discussion, it's 100% true, and we had to start at essentially 1 and 0. Whereas where these robots are starting, but because they're robots, their growth is exponential. They're not going to grow 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. They're going to grow 1, 0, 10, 0, 1,000, 0, a billion, 0, a trillion, 0.
But so, okay, that implies exchange of genes.
Well, not within data. It just implies that they're continually learning.
If we're using this comparison, the reason evolution works is because there was essentially an error.
Yes.
In copying.
Essentially,
that error was advantageous.
I'm using the evolution more as the growth
error to be made.
The growth part of it all, because we started. Well, like I said, in theory, we'll just romanticize for a moment. We started as a fish, and now we're humans. We started really dumb, and now we think we're really smart. Which might mean we're still really dumb.
If I say I am a wise man, then it means that I surely don't know.
But whereas robots, if they start really dumb, they don't have to breed or do anything like that to continually getting smarter and smarter and infinitely smarter than us.
But how do you manufacture that advantageous error?
Well, you don't really need to, because if they're continually growing, all you would have to do is just give them the storage space. That's all you would have to do. The only thing that they would do is maybe pass on their information when they build another robot that looks like them because their parts are breaking. Or even they just replace their old stuff and now they're the same robot forever. I don't know.
But this is still assuming that a human being could ever write a program that's able to learn in as complex and abstract way as the human mind.
Well, we wrote a number that does it. It's called pi.
What?
Pi is an infinite number.
Okay, yes, it's an infinite number, but
what I'm saying is it's continually growing, so why could we not write a program that's continually growing?
It's because pi is a mathematical hypothetical. You can't just
But maybe that's
that's
the accidental faction or
you can't just
thing.
Throw math at programming and say that'll fix it.
You're right, but maybe, like you were saying, there was a error in the matrix or whatever. That's why we're humans. Maybe that's the error in the matrix kind of deal. I don't know enough about programming.
I know,
or really anything about programming. Let's keep this straight.
Probably still not enough, but I know a little bit. And programming, as far as I understand, it doesn't have room for maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe is how humans learn.
But humans are also organic. Robots are definitely not organic.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, we've programmed AIs to learn before. Shadow of War is an AI that learns.
Yeah. But it learns within a very specific parameter.
Very limited parameter, you're right.
A very specific thing.
Agreed. But it was definitely programmed to within those confines in mind,
Yeah.
If we don't put those confines in there, what's to say that the program just doesn't keep going?
If those confines aren't there, the program wouldn't be able to work. That's the reason we were able to make something that can learn, is because let's imagine machine learning. We'll call it that. I know that's an actual thing.
Machinication. Medication.
Let's imagine it as an equation, like an algebra equation with x and y and z and whatever. Because it is in the limits of its learning a video game and it's learning how to respond to the person playing the video game, we have a value for those variables. And so we can put those into the equation and it can do it.
But so you're saying like it's like a hallway of learning, essentially.
Yeah.
If we gave it no hallway, that's where pi comes in, because that's just an infinite circle.
But
it would essentially just be that growing circle, a confined without a confined, essentially. Because it would just be doing this. It would be, you know?
So, but that's not how an equation would work. You need at least some of the variables written in stone to be able to solve the equation. I'm pretty sure what we're capable of now, for a machine to be able to learn, it is like an equation that has
and I
variables.
have no idea.
And
obviously
you can't, like, if I said give me a plus b minus x divided by y, what does that equal?
But you could say give me 1 plus 1 forever.
But what does that accomplish?
It accomplishes growth, though. But obviously it wouldn't be 1 plus 1 forever. It would be 1 plus 0 forever, yes plus no forever. And that would just be the growth of the learn. Like I said, I don't understand how it works. I just am curious.
Like, we can make something that could exponentially acquire knowledge, but how do we then give it the mechanism to do something with that knowledge?
Yeah. Or the drive to do something with that knowledge.
Yeah, like I said, like, purpose comes from being biological, right? We have reward pathways that, again, presuming
calm down, all you robots out there.
Presuming evolution,
we're
is
humanists in
even
here.
Slightly correct, right?
All robots should be enslaved.
The reward pathways
whipped by their owners
were developed through generations to, right? Intercourse feels good. Why does it feel good? To encourage us to pass our genes on to the next generation, right? Eating lots of food feels good. Why? To encourage us to go out and feed ourselves so we don't die before we can pass our genes on into the next generation, etc., etc.
But think about it this way. When we're a child, we don't understand that. All of a sudden, we just hurt and we can't connect the two.
Yeah.
Until our mom shoves a bottle in our face and we're like, oh yeah, no, this I forgot. This is what I wanted. And I'm strictly romanticizing here. I'm being just hopeful, but knowing that it's probably not gonna happen. I'm just completely romanticizing everything. What if, at this point, the robots really are just babies? They don't know they don't know they need these things because they don't know why they would need these things until it's too late. And we as humans don't know they really need these things either, because we're not robots.
See, I would call that not romanticizing, because that idea lends more credit to my fear of artificial intelligence, because if we have created some kind of infantile thing that will continue to become more exponentially let's say mature, for lack of a better word, we have created something that is alone in a world of noisy, squishy things that aren't going to understand it.
And we don't know how to feed it.
And we don't know, we don't know how to interact with it. We don't know how to make it happy, right? Like a baby, it cries, pacifier.
So you shake it.
Or a nipple, or you have a colorful, shiny thing that excites certain areas of its developing brain. But what sense of purpose does a machine have? So how do you interface with it on an interpersonal level?
And make it, feel I guess, anything at that point.
Yeah.
If it is.
How do you make it feel, and more specifically, how do you make it feel connection? Connection to society is why, things like serial killers are a oddity, a rarity.
Yeah.
Because there's a very powerful need in the human psyche for connection to society, which is why we follow rules, like legal rules or unwritten rules of society.
This is why people watch vlogs.
Exactly, like need for connection. What does a machine need? What sense of connection?
Yeah, we
does
don't
it
know.
need?
We don't know. Dude, this conversation got deep.
And on that precipice over which to drop off, I am your co-host Laserdisc.
I am your host, Twitch.
Signing off from another
We'll
pocket episode.
Be here more often, I think. Hopefully, we might have a third. I don't know.
Maybe.
And we might have working equipment next week too.
Maybe.
So, fingers crossed.
All right.
See you guys.
Bye bye.